Have you heard of consent? It's the idea that no means no and yes means yes. Want some popcorn? No, thank you. How about some ice cream? Yes, please. Consent is especially important in relationships, even when you're just dating and not engaging in sexual activity. It's about voicing what you want or don't want and respecting others when they're uncomfortable with something. It sounds like something people who try to be like Jesus would excel at, but even Christians struggle with consent. Some of the problem comes from how we sometimes understand verses like 1 Corinthians 7:4 by themselves rather than in the light of all Scripture. The wife does not have authority over her own body, but yields it to her husband. In the same way, the husband does not have authority over his own body, but yields it to his wife. Because of this verse, your first thought might be to assume that consent for romantic physical activity within a relationship, and especially for sex within a marriage, just isn't necessary. It's my right. But we need to remember two truths that contradict this interpretation. First, here Paul is writing to extremists who are arguing total abstinence from sex, even in marriage, makes someone holier. He's not attempting to address the emotional, physical, or intellectual reasons one person has for not engaging in certain romantic physical activity. Second, a holistic reading of the Bible strongly discourages putting our wants above the needs of others, and though sex may be a strong want, it's not a need. Paul writes in Philippians 2:4, "Let each of you look not only to his own interests, but also to the interests of others." In 1 Corinthians 10:24, he says, "Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor." John 15:13 says, "Greater love has no one than this, that someone lay down his life for his friends." And finally, Paul writes in Romans 2:8, "But for those who are self-seeking and do not obey the truth, but obey unrighteousness, there will be wrath and fury." Consent isn't just about sex. It's an important part of all physical interactions, whether shaking the hand of a new acquaintance, hugging your grandma, kissing a boyfriend or girlfriend, or engaging in any sexual activity. Of course, just like sometimes you would prefer not to do the dishes, but you do it anyway out of love for the person asking, there may be times when you would prefer not to have sex, but out of love for your spouse, accept the request anyway. This is where 1 Corinthians 7:4 shines, but the biblical values of choice and respect protect everyone's right to give consent. Your body is not hers or his so far to allow emotional or physical harm, no matter the status or level of the relationship. Sex requires a great amount of trust between two people. If that trust is broken, say, due to pressuring somebody to do something they don't want, it can seriously damage the relationship and at sometimes hurt that person emotionally and mentally, which is called trauma. Any romantic physical activity should never happen at the expense of someone feeling safe, especially in marriage, a relationship built on mutual love, respect, and care. When somebody says no, respect it. And don't make a big deal about it. Dedicate yourself to building safety and trust in all your relationships.